You're okay in the booth, right? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. It is today is Monday, the 19th of September. It is now 6:33, and we are calling to order the Planning and Zoning meeting. It is a regular meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. All Planning and Zoning members are present except for Commissioner Dansby, Chairperson Dansby, and so I'll be filling in. As a side note, I will have to recuse myself for one item, and I'd ask that Chairperson Boswell, or Commissioner Boswell, take over as chair. I'll get my words straight here shortly, when I leave probably. For the introduction of the agenda and format of hearing, which is the third item, Mr. Martin Griggs, if he would please take over.
Thank you, Chair. So for each item, we'll have a call to order followed by a staff report. Afterwards, we'll have an opportunity for the applicant to make their presentation. That will be followed by public comment in support or opposition. At that time, please state your name and address for the record. Be brief and to the point within a 3-minute time frame. And all comments shall be about the project with no personal attacks. Commission and staff discussion will follow, and then the commission will vote to recommend approval as presented, approval with conditions, denial of the request, or to table the item for further information. All items tonight will go on to City Council for consideration, being the zone change conditional use permit and the text amendments at the October 10th meeting. First on the agenda, we've got the consent, which has approval of minutes and excuse of absences. Then on new business, we have one plat for the Moosa Stadium, followed by a trio of zone cases. The first two are zoning assignments for Bailey and Charles Avenue, and the third is for amendments to the French Quarter Plan development. And then on the next slide, we've got another zone case for property just to the east of Massey Oaks. Then we have two conditional use permits, one for heavy machinery, sales, storage, rental, and repair. The other for a massage establishment. And then rounding out the night, we will have some Unified Development Code amendments. With that said, Chair, I'll pass it back so that way you can go for the consent agenda.
Thank you, sir. For the consent agenda, we have two items. I believe you stated there are two sets of minutes. One is on August 1st, and the other was the August 15th Planning and Zoning meeting. And then we have the excused absences of Mr. Brandon Dansby and Mr. Commissioner Brandon Dansby and Commissioner Andrew Earles. Are there any commissioners wishing to pull any item? I have just one small comment that won't affect anything. Whoever did the meetings, the minutes, did a fantastic job. It's something for us to be absent from here for, I guess, 5 weeks, and then 2 more weeks on top of that, but you brought me right back into the meetings with those. If that was you, thank you very much. So if nobody wishes to pull an item, a motion and a second for the consent agenda, please.
To approve?
Motion. To approve.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Measure passes 6-0. That brings us to item number 5, which is items removed from the consent agenda. There are none. So we'll go to item number 6, and that is new business. Under new business, number 1 is consideration possible action, the final plat of Moosa Stadium. As we turn the page, this is a request by Ki Chen of KC United, Inc., applicant on behalf of Saki Mohammed, the owner, for approval of final plat of Moosa Stadium located at 5515 Old Massey Ranch Road, or thereabouts. How about a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Commissioner Henrik, second.
Thank you for that, and we're ready for a staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Let me introduce Florence Buaku, one of my senior planners, to discuss this plat. Florence, take it away.
Thank you, Martin. Good evening, Commission, Chair and members of the Commission. This request is for a final plat for Musa Stadium. This is located in the city of Pearland, ETJ, and is to be able to create 4 lots and 1 detention reserve. About 3 of the lots are 10 acres and there's 1 14-acre lot. The address is roughly north of County Road 100, specifically 5515 Old Massey Ranch Road. And so staff has reviewed the request to check with conformancy with our basic regulatory document. It does meet our comprehensive plan. This is in the ETJ, so it's not required to meet any zoning requirements. And it's also not eligible for city utilities. And so it meets most of the required plans for an ETJ property. The property has no zoning because it's outside the city limits, as you can see, and it's surrounded by ETJ property all around. Again, here is the future land use map. The future land use designates the property as low density residential. At the moment, there is some residential development consisting of mobile homes on the property, and there's also a stadium on the property, a cricket stadium. But because this is in the ETJ, it's not necessarily required to meet to be consistent with our comprehensive plan. This is the plat that has been submitted. It's consistent with what was submitted during the preliminary plat, which was approved about 2 years ago in 2020. There is only one condition that staff is proposing because currently the limits of the plat, the city owns the property south of the plat along County Road 100, and there's a not a detention pond, but there's a pond on the property that encroaches into the city's property. And so we do have a letter from the applicant promising to relocate that pond once they do any development on this property after the final plat has been approved. And so with that, staff has evaluated the request for consistency with the requirements for approving a preliminary plat in the UDC and found that it is consistent with all the requirements. They also have a development agreement with the county to make certain improvements to the site once the final plat has been approved. Thank you. That concludes staff report.
Thank you for that report. With that in the record, is the applicant here, and does the applicant wish to make a presentation? Seeing no movement, we'll assume that the applicant is not here. All right, that brings us to, in our script, number 5, which is persons wishing to speak for or against. Is there anyone wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing no movement, we'll go into staff and commissioners' applicant discussion. Commissioners, anything? Just wanting to make sure we get the condition into this. Do we need to modify the motion to approve?
Yes, sir. It would, because there's not a resolution that's attached that has it already. It would require somebody to make a motion to amend to approve with staff condition, or if you wanted to, you could actually read that staff condition that's in the report. Okay. A second, a vote on amending the motion and then the final vote.
And the only way to avoid 2 votes is for the original motion giver and the second to add that in there.
Yep.
To
The
amend.
original is already on the floor, so that's not avoidable in this particular
All right.
situation.
Well, then I would like to make a motion to amend the motion to approval. Did I say that right? Okay. Staff, that staff has recommended, and that is the condition is the property owner shall relocate the detention pond encroaching into the city's right-of-way upon the first improvement on this site following final plat approval.
I second Commissioner Earles.
So we will vote on the amended motion first, and then we can vote on the actual motion itself. All right. So all those in favor of the amended motion, please signify by raising your right hand. Measure passes 6-0. If there's no further discussion, then let's vote on the actual original motion, not emotion, original motion itself. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Measure passes 6-0 also.
And just for the purposes of clarity, it's the original motion as amended.
As amended. Thank you. Very, very true. That then brings us to item number 2, which is consideration and possible action, zone change application, zone 22-14. And this is a request by the Director of Community Development of the City of Pearland for approval of a permanent zone classification of suburban residential-15, which is SR-15 district, for a newly annexed tract of land totaling approximately 7.7335 acres, general location being 5806 Bailey Road in Pearland, Texas. A motion for approval, please.
So moved. I'll second.
Thank you for that. Staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Let me introduce Samin Bazargan, one of my staff planners, to present this case. Samin, take it away.
Thank you, Martin. Good evening, Planning and Zoning Commissions. So the next case is zone change or zone classification of a property that has been recently annexed to the city. The classification is for property from SD Suburban District to SR-15. According to UDC, when a property is annexed to the city, planning director has to assign zoning to it. So far, there have been no written comment on phone calls against or in favor of the proposed zone change. This is the zoning and aerial map that shows the property is surrounded by residential zone districts. The property to the west and east also have been recently annexed to the city and zone SR-15. And this is a future land use map that shows the property has been designated for low density residential, which supports the zone classification. So the property has been developed as a single family home back in 2001, and it's currently unplatted. To the north is a single family residential, to the west it's single family, and as you can see to the south, it's our ETJ, and to the west, to the east, it's zone residential, but there is a gas station. The proposed zone classification is in conformance with the comprehensive plan and also the future land use map. Bailey Road is a major thoroughfare and has sufficient width. Property has not been platted and has no access to water or sewer line. So the conformity to criteria, the proposed zone change amendment implements the policies of the adopted comprehensive plan. The zone classification of SR-15 has no negative impact on the surrounding area. And thank you. And overall, the proposed zone classification meet all the criteria for conformity. So staff recommends approval of a zone classification of SR15 for the recently approved, annexed property. And that completes the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I also assume that handles two items. One is the staff report and one is the applicant presentation, since the city is the applicant. Okay. So then we'll move on to item number 5 in the script, and that is persons wishing to speak for or against. Is there anyone wishing to speak for or against? Seeing no movement or hearing nothing, we shall move into staff, commission, and applicant discussion. Commissioners? Anybody? Only one dumb question. What triggers this besides, it said it was recently annexed. Is there a trigger other than that? And second follow-up question that can be easily answered, is the applicant, is the homeowner, is this okay with them? I'm assuming because it's on a 10-acre or 7+ acre, it meets the criteria. There's no grandfathering. Everything's good to go.
So the history on this site is that this was included in the Bailey Road annexation. And I want to say that the annexation took place in 2015 and the zoning assignment for Bailey Road was in 2016. This property and the next property had development rights, it's not the right word, development agreements in place so that way they could remain outside of the city limits for a set period of time. That set period of time actually expired in 2020 during the pandemic. So at that point, this wasn't a major issue or concern about the development of the property since they hadn't reached out. So now that it's a little safer to conduct these activities, we went forward with going through the annexation of those properties.
Perfect. Thank you. Great explanation. Anybody else? All right. If not, we have a motion for approval on the table and a second. So all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Measure passes 6-0. We're getting too easy. The next item is very similar as Mr. Martin Griggs stated. It is a consideration of possible action, zone change application, zone 22-15. And this again is a request by the Director of Community Development of the City of Pearland for approval of a permanent zone classification of Suburban Residential 15 or SR-15 district for a newly annexed tract of land totaling approximately 15.139 acres. And the general location is 3525 Charles Avenue in Pearland, Texas. A motion for approval, please.
So moves, Commissioner Earles.
Second.
With that, staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Let me introduce Patrick Bauer, one of our staff planners, to present this case. Patrick, take it away.
Thank you, Martin. Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. The request before you tonight, as mentioned, is for a permanent zone classification of Suburban Residential 15 district for newly annexed land, totaling approximately 15.139 acres. To date, staff has not received any written comments or phone calls in favor or against this request. And looking at the zoning of the property, around the property, we see a mixture of different residential uses. We have a single-family residential 1 zoning to the top with the subdivision. And we have mostly SR-15 surrounding it from the north, west, and south. And then to the east is a residential estate zoning district. And looking at the future land use of the property, it's low-density residential, and it's surrounded on 3 sides by the low-density residential. And then to the east, there is a public/semi-public future land use designation. Looking at just like a history of the property, a single-family home was built on the property in 2001 with an additional barn built on the property in 2013. The properties to the east and west were annexed in 2015, and they are both zoned SR-15, and then the subject property is currently unplatted. So looking at just the land uses that are around it, we see predominantly single-family residences with some undeveloped land to the south. There's one to the north, kind of northwest is a boat storage with some mobile homes, and then to the east is a school. Here's just a view of the property. It's a bigger lot, more of a rural look, but this view of the property, and the home is off in the distance, but this is just a street view from Charles Avenue. And just looking at the review criteria, the proposed classification is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Charles Avenue is designated as a local street. It's currently unplatted, and also sewer is currently not accessible for the property. And looking at the approval criteria for a zone change, the request meets all 4 of the approval criteria. And so the proposed zoning classification is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the 2015 future land use plan, and provides the best fit for the subject property and surrounding uses. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the permanent zone classification of suburban residential 15. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you. And again, just to confirm, since the staff report, since the applicant is the city of Pearland, I would assume that both the staff report and the applicant presentation were met.
That is correct.
All right. So we'll move on to persons wishing to speak for or against. And I do have a public speaker card that someone was kind enough to fill out. And I hope, as Selena Woods, Miss. Thank you. Welcome. And if you'll just state your name and address for the record. And I believe they've told you 3 minutes, please, if you could.
I'm Selena Woods, and I live at the address that we're talking about, 3525 Charles Avenue. They keep saying voluntary. Well, we did not want to be annexed. They gave us a deal where we could wait the 5 years extended us for 5 years. But if we wouldn't have signed the paper for 5 years, we would have been annexed at that time. Okay, so now they're wanting to rezone us, and we're not wanting to do that either. I live out there in a considered barn dominium, which was built in 2001, and I've lived out there since then. And I live there with my daughter and her husband and granddaughter. My husband was passed away in January of last year, so I'm out there, and I have no other place to go, and I feel like y'all are just squeezing me out a little at a time. The school was not there when I was there. The subdivision next to me was not there when we first moved out there. And then, like I said, they keep telling us that we were voluntarily annexed. Well, we was not voluntarily annexed. We fought it as hard as we could fight it for what we knew or how to do. And now then it's the same thing with this proposed zone change. So I don't know how it would benefit me. I still have my sewer, which is my septic. I have well. I have everything I need out there. I do not need the city's services. I had the county sheriff. And like I said, we had all the county amenities, and the city, even after 5 years, they've done nothing out there. Not a thing to improve it. So I don't see why they want my land.
Thank you for those comments. Is there anyone else wishing to speak for or against this item? Anyone else wishing to speak for or against? Seeing no movement, we'll move to the next item, and that is staff, commission, and applicant discussions. Commissioners?
I guess this question would be for the staff. This proposal to annex this, to change the zone to SR 15, will this in any way affect her property?
Yes and no. It won't affect its current use. She can still do everything that she was doing prior to annexation and prior to the zoning classification. It could potentially affect any future uses, because if there's a future use inconsistent with this zoning classification, she would have to submit, or whoever is doing it would have to submit a zone change to allow that future use if it's inconsistent. I don't know what the inconsistent future use might be, but let's say that somebody wanted to build on that land. If she wanted to sell the land and the future person wanted to build a junkyard, well, the junkyard might not be allowed, and it's definitely not allowed in the SR15. So that wouldn't be allowed there, and you'd have to have a zone change. If somebody wants to subdivide the land and create much, much, much smaller lots than that gorgeous piece of property that she has and can still continue to use as she has right now, that wouldn't be an issue. Only if they wanted to subdivide into smaller lots, if it didn't fit within the SR15, it would have to be rezoned at that time. So,
Thank you.
I have a question. So what was the purpose of annexing this tract?
I think I've got a little bit more history here than Martin. So I would say that around 2000, the city and the EDC started looking at improvements. It probably even predates that, improvements to Bailey Road. It was I'm going to say a multi-million-dollar investment of tax funds to improve Bailey Road. As the city was initiating, and the EDC, or all the parties involved, were looking at making those major improvements. They wanted to make sure that they protected and preserved that corridor, to make sure that that investment was for the types of uses that it deemed appropriate. So we wanted to make sure that zoning was in place to protect that investment. You might not want to put that type of investment on a roadway if the types of uses around that aren't compatible with your future plans.
Okay, wait, this is not the one, this is Charles Avenue. Is that?
Yeah, and I think that those were both started around the same time. So it initiated in 2010, somewhere around there, a little bit before that. It was delayed by council. I'm sorry. So if everything else was done in 2015 around there, then prior to that is when it was initiated. Mm-hmm. Council at that time said, we're going to delay this until after the roadway is done, and then we will initiate it. And that's how we got so far down from the initial annexation plan that, it dates back more than 10 years.
So this track, and I'm sorry, I couldn't tell from the map, this is, okay, I see
Correct.
where it is.
Yeah.
So my other question is, she says she's on septic and well, so she's able to remain on septic and well.
Correct.
Nobody's going to force her to connect.
The zoning procedures have no effect on her current use of the property.
Mm-hmm. If her house floods in a storm and she has to rebuild, does that change?
It does not change, no, because this use would be consistent with its zoning category. And if it floods and she needed to rebuild, that would not have effect on her utilities. At the end of the day, zoning is what uses are allowed. This proceeding has nothing to do with utilities. This proceeding has nothing to do with annexation. It is what uses are allowed in that boundary.
Okay.
And the city is saying it's anything within the SR15 category, which is primarily residential with some agricultural uses. But if Martin would characterize that different,
No,
he's shaking his head, so yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also large lot. Just like you said, you can't subdivide into something small. So your current use in a 15 acre, she could subdivide it once, twice, or three times probably, and still continue with the SR15, correct?
On 15 acres, she could easily fit many 15,000 square foot lots.
There you go. So I hope that helps in the process, some of what we went through. I know you're probably still not happy, but I hope that helped. Yes, ma'am. If we're going to dialogue, if you could please go back up there for the record.
because I've been told if I like sold off my cows to get more, that once they were gone, I would no longer be able to have them. We have chicken. I mean, we use it for ag, so
Sure.
we have lots of things that we do use it for. And I was also told that once they brought in city services, I would be forced to tie into the water and the sewer.
You've heard a lot of things that aren't true, but you want to address any of those?
So we do have city ordinances on the types of allowed livestock and animal husbandry that a site can have. Since all of those were existing prior to annexation, as Lawrence said, those are allowed uses that are allowed to continue. On the sewer or on the utility services, that's going to be up to whenever we either get development out there that requires the extension of those lines, or it becomes a capital project to provide sewer services and water services out there.
And the city does have a 5-year plan. We call it the CIP. Charles Street is not in the 5-year plan, as I recall. And so I can tell you almost definitively that Charles Street will not have water and sewer in the next 5 years.
Well, I hope to be around a lot longer than that.
Well, I hope you are too, ma'am.
And my well water is a lot better than the city water, so I don't want to be forced to be having to connect to the city water and city sewer. I don't think that's right either. If I've already paid to have those services, why would I want to connect to the city water and city sewer?
If I'm not mistaken, the rule is that if the city does put water and sewer there, you would still have to tap into, and I don't know that they can force you to do that. Is that correct? It's when you need it, really.
I would just suggest that, again, utilities are not part of the zoning classification. The services that were authorized inside the annexation are the services that were authorized. How and when the city addresses those issues, they'll have the conversations with Ms. Woods at that time. This is not that time.
I'm hearing them loud and clear. Thank you, ma'am. All right. Anybody else? All those in favor? We do have a motion and a second on the table. It's a motion of approval. So all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Measure passes 6-0. That brings us to item number 4 under Roman numeral number 6, which was new business, and that's consideration and possible action zone change application zone 22-20. And this is a request by Justin Barnett, applicant on behalf of Triangle 31 Properties, LLC, owner, for approval of amendments to the French Quarter planned development on approximately 62.39 acres of land, the general location being 3900 block of Pearland Parkway. Motion of approval and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
All right, that brings us then to the staff report portion.
Thank you, Chair. So as y'all may remember, we saw the French Quarter a few years ago come in for their initial plan development. This plan development had some issues that it went through on working through its site plan, and additionally with COVID, it lapsed the 2-year time period in order to submit a design plan to lock in the plan development. So they are coming back tonight to have a few amendments and re-engage in that ability to submit a site development plan. So as mentioned, this is on the 3900 block of Pearland Parkway, and it has a split future land use in between medium density residential and light industrial. So as mentioned, it did have a prior plan development zoning classification to it. It also has M1, the light industrial, on both the west, south, and east. And newly to this map, it has general business in one of the corners, and then a small sliver of GC, general commercial, that it is adjacent to. From here, you can see the future land use map with the portion indicating medium density residential and the light industrial. And again, just the general outline of the subject property, where you can see the significant drainage ditch that they were working through BDD4 to get some resolution on. So this is a view looking over on Pearland Parkway. And this is the proposed site plan. If you remember from the last time that this was in discussion, there are various memory care and assisted living portions to that long building along the north there. And new to this plan, they have some cottages that are in a duplex configuration just south of that. And then the additional single-family residences that would integrate in with the overall development. So here we're showing the proposed deviations. Many of these are standard from what was previously discussed. So, for instance, the reduction of the side yard, the reduction of the width from 50 to 45 foot, the reduction in land area by 50 square feet, and then the minimum rear yard from a 20 foot to a 15. All of this is just allowing for a little tighter development on those properties. So the conformity table that we see, this meets the medium density, but it does not conform to the light industrial. With the upcoming comprehensive plan, this is one of the sites that will have adjusted through that process. And then it meets the thoroughfare plan as Pearland Parkway has sufficient width. It still needs to go through platting, and utilities will need to be extended to provide service to the property. So this is a little different, as I mentioned, since it went through the plan development phase once already and has just lapsed. So what I have in front of you is the approval criteria that City Council will be looking at. So you can see that it generally meets the four uses or the four conformity criteria. And the last one's whether there are extenuating circumstances justifying the failure to submit a site development plan or other development applications during the applicable time period. This is something that the council will take into consideration as they review the proposed plan development and the amendments. So the commission tonight has opportunity to make recommendation to the City Council whether or not to reinstate that ability and to make these amendments, or whether the property should be zoned to another classification. I know that the applicant is here, so I think it would be a good opportunity to let them present for further explanation.
That concludes the staff report.
Yes, sir.
Then we shall move on to the applicant presentation. Please state your name and address for the record.
Justin Barnett, 6302 Broadway, Suite 200. As Martin has said, we've been at this a long time, so this is coming back through. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I know you got a long agenda, so this has been pretty. I think there are a lot of. This just went through council. There's been a lot of discussion. There's been a lot of work from staff. There's been a lot of work on both sides. Amendment to the thoroughfare at one point to get it to work. The major issue is when we started this development and the design in 2016, we always start pre-development wise, and you start meeting with the entities, and we met with the drainage district, and we came up with a plan. And not to teach you, I don't want to talk down and teach you how to do development, but we start out with the idea, and we generally want to work in a way that we're not going to waste money or spend money, but we've spent a lot of money in design one of the things we originally had designed was we were going to put a street through industrial and curve it back up and tie it in. The main major change that we're bringing tonight, other than re-upping or reinstating the PD, is we move from single-family residential lots to cottages, what we call the cottages. They're north of the industrial ditch. What we found out is that we originally had planned to build in box culverts around industrial and create a closed drainage system, believing it would be easier to maintain, would be easier for the drainage district. And when we started this, we generally had a consensus. Yes, we agree, go get your study, prove the numbers out. Well, when we did that in 2018, we even made it through council. And then there was a change, as it happens, new engineer, new board commissioners, and there was a concern raised, and Harvey happened after the design. So we have worked tirelessly, and I feel like that's extenuating circumstances to bring in and not getting it done, because what we did in the face of public safety and for the caution of public safety, we worked out the drainage issues and the concerns, and we waited, and we didn't just push it through. We actually came back to the table and said, the drainage district said we want 150 feet ultimate right away along industrial. So the Blue Creek now, we're going to have almost a creek as wide as Cowart's Creek through there, the existing industrial ditch. It's not all built, but we gave in, and we are dedicating what they wanted. It won't be built. The existing ditch will remain. We'll put inline detention through there. But should they ultimately want to create the perfect ditch, the drainage district will have the easement and the land to do that. The same thing coming down Pearland Parkway. There was a concern of drainage. We went back to the table. We actually did an extenuating drainage plan, and they wanted an additional 100 feet off Pearland Parkway for drainage. In February of this year, the drainage district approved our drainage study, and they approved our overall drainage plan, and this is why we're coming back tonight with this. So we're just re-upping this. The main difference in why we put the cottages there, they will be part of the senior living facility. They will be rentals. The one thing that, and I'm with R West Development, so Renee McGuire, next to it's Forgotten Angels. This land is all born out of the Renee McGuire R West Development. We didn't want to create two separate communities. The idea of this was that it was going to be, as you know, Renee designed and created and built Bella Vita and developed Bella Vita. And there are people there that love that community. What we didn't want to do is we want to create a community, and this is a senior living. This is an age-restricted community for this area. We wanted to create a unity, and so we felt like giving into the broader ditch and creating an extension would separate the two tracts of land and make it a different feel for the community, meaning your north neighbors of the ditch wouldn't actually be neighbors. And it's 100 feet across, and it won't be. There'll be a pasture in between you. So what we did is we came in and created more cottages. These are duplex-style cottages that will be considered multifamily. They'll be 1,300 and 1,500 square foot, one-story rental, part of the senior living. That'll give, the whole idea of this is what we call age in place. And that's to go from to senior owning their home, to downsizing and maybe not ready to move into apartment style living, going into an independent apartment, which will have 90 units, 63 units of assisted living, and 29 units of memory care. Dealing with an aging parent has been one of the toughest battles that I have seen. I wish that I lived in a community where I could put my mother so close to me in assisted living. And I think that that is a key, and that's what we sold it on in the beginning, is the ability that if we have to lose our spouse to dementia or Alzheimer's, that we're not so far away. And the idea that we have to go to assisted living, if we've lived in a community for 10 years and we age in place, then when we do have to go over, and I will have to eventually go over somewhere, that I will know and I will be familiar with the people that are living there. So that's why we call it an age in place, a continuing care retirement community. I won't harp on too much. There's not a lot of changes other than the cottages, the single family lots were turned into cottages. And so there's 218 units, 90 independent living, 36 cottages, 63 assisted living, and 29 memory care. But I wanted to touch real quick on the variances. And only 32% of the lots were asking for a 45-foot lot of the whole thing. So the majority of them would conform to R4, a minimum of 50-foot lot. We are going to a smaller side yard, and that is because the HOA will maintain the yards for even the residents and the homeowners. So we're trying to do things where we can continue to maintain, make it easier for seniors to retire, maintenance-wise, but we also want to make it affordable and economical to maintain and keep the yards up. The main changes, and then other than the single family, is I think to the UDC, we're at a 40-foot height, and the multifamily zone is a maximum of a 35-foot height. It's not that much more. We're just getting it in there, and we wanted to make it note. We wanted to note it. And then the rear yard, we're going to maintain that. So, we're just trying to not create a lot for homeowners to have to take care of, and that was the idea for that. So I'm going to leave that right there. If there's questions, I'll come back up.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being here again. That brings us to item number 4 on our script, which is that was item 4, which was applicant presentation. We go to item 5, which is persons wishing to speak for or against. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak for or against? Anyone wishing to speak for or against? And seeing no movement or hearing no one, we'll move to staff, commission, applicant discussion. Commissioners?
The property that we're showing across the creek, is that going to be part of the senior living, or is that resident? Can anybody move in there and buy a home?
The yellow squares, I guess I will. Yes, those are lots that will be sold to a builder that will build and that'll be owned by a homeowner.
Okay. What about that goes for the same there on the north side of the creek?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. But on the north side of the creek, that is strictly senior living?
All of this is
okay. Every bit of it's going to be senior.
Every bit of it is.
Okay. All right.
So to clarify, just because I heard the question, I heard kind of a different answer there. All the yellow rectangles will also be under the senior umbrella.
It will be an age-restricted, it would be like Bella Vita, an age-restricted community to buy in.
Got it.
One other thing, which I know Lawrence is probably going to tell me it's not the time to bring this up, but it has to do with the dump. As everybody knows, we've had nothing but controversy over the dump that's over in the Shadow Creek area. I live on Dixie Farm, but I live further south or further north. If I drive down there every once in a while, I do get there is a smell in that area, but it's not all the time, and it's not where it just knocks your head off. But you know, I don't know how you mitigate that or anything, but have y'all done any research down there to see how bad it's going to get or anything like that? Because the last thing that we want to do is for this to be put on the city council at a later date to where all of a sudden they get the rap on it when there's actually nothing they can really do about it. And I just don't want to see that happen again.
I would answer that with twofold. I mean, obviously, if that was going to be a problem for this development, I think you would have already heard it from the residents of Town Lake as well. And I agree with you. I think that I drive by the sewer treatment plant sometimes in the right day and the right process, and I get a whiff of something, but it's not all the time. Also, right next door, and Martin can show where it's general business, but it's Forgotten Angels. And as you know, Renee's had the Dayhab in that facility there for almost 20 years. And we have employees, and Forgotten Angel has employees. We've never had an issue where we've been told, hey, it's just really, really, I would say no. If Town Lake hasn't, or Shadow Creek, or anyone on the east side of Pearland Parkway, I think they would have already complained loudly if it was going to be a problem. So that was I would say that would be our consideration.
But when houses are built, and like I said, this is getting offset, but when you buy a home in a property and it's next to something like that, or is that put in somewhere in that document that they're made aware that you have a dump south of you? So, I mean, you know, my whole thinking is I just know what we went through with Shadow Creek, and although it's different substances going in over there than what it was at Shadow Creek, it's built different than what the Fort Bend County was built. You know, it's a total different animal. And like I said, the smell's not as bad. But, you know, is there some type of thing or language in there when they go to sign the papers on their home and stuff that it does notify those people that there is a dump that is south of them? Or is that just something that is left upon the people to sit there and find out for themselves?
Well, it's an awesome question, a very good question to ask. I mean, we sell the lots to builders, so in that process, there's a lot of due diligence that goes in when we sell the lots, and I would tell you that there's a lot of questions we answer. There's a lot of due diligence that a builder would take on to answer that. What they say and what they promise or what they reveal when they sell the houses, I have no idea what they do. So I couldn't even answer that myself. Obviously, that's probably, I would say if I was a builder taking significant risk to buy these lots up, that those are all considerations that I hope they do take in before they take the risk. So,
Mr. Eisenberg, if I could answer your question and address what you originally said, I wasn't going to tell you that that's not an appropriate question, because that actually is an appropriate thing, because you don't have to reinstate this proposed PUD. You could say, no, I'm concerned about this land and putting homes that close in proximity to a landfill. So it's an absolute appropriate issue. And if you don't want this to have residential structures or a traditional single-family residential structure, if you'd prefer it to be more like the memory care and the assisted living, then that would be an appropriate proposed zone change instead of reinstating the single-family residences here. So that's the first part. And then the second part is that Texas law does require a disclosure for homes within a certain proximity of certain types of landfills. I don't know what that distance is for this type of landfill. I couldn't tell you that it's 500 meters, 200 feet, or a mile away. I don't know that, but there is a disclosure requirement by law for certain proximities to certain landfills. I imagine that Mr. Barnett and his team of people selling to builders will research that issue thoroughly and comply with the applicable requirements.
Okay, well, thank you. And, as old people, we still have sense of smell, so.
I like the concept. I like the, I think you said it, coined that phrase, or maybe it's coined in the business, age in place. Always appreciative, and it takes a lot of land to do that. So 60 some odd acres, 62 acres, you utilized it well, and I know you have some restrictions as well on that parcel. So I'll be for it. And as for the 45s versus the 50s, honestly, having a little bit of development background, enough to be dangerous, I know that other communities and other, developers and especially prefer that. The builders prefer it. And from an AV standpoint, and that's assessed value of the project, having more houses is beneficial from a tax base. So I appreciate the efforts you went through and all the struggles you went through, Harvey, and everything else. So anyone else? Again, last call. All right. We have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Measure passes 6-0. For the next item, which is item number 5, I'm going to go ahead and step out and recuse myself and hand it over to Chairperson Boswell.
Moving forward with item 5, consideration and possible action, zone application, zone 22-22. This is a request by Andrew Lang of BGE Inc., applicant on behalf of RMJ Miller Real Estate Holdings, owner, for approval of a zone change from residential estate district to planned development district, incorporating approximately 79.24 acre of land in Massey Oak planned development to wit. And the general location is south of Old Massey Ranch Road, east of the future Harkey Road, and west of McLean Road. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I want to assume that's a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, yes.
Thank you.
And at this time, can I get the staff report?
Sure thing, Chair.
Thank you.
So as mentioned, this is a change in zoning from the RE to an existing planned development, incorporating this land into the existing Massey Oaks planned development. So we have seen, or this will be the second addendum adding in land. First, we saw the original Massey Oaks and the Rogers tract. Then we saw the Lou tract being brought in. And then this tract that is being annexed in or added in is the Ordino tract. You can see the future land use of the sites shows this area as suburban residential. And then this is the general outline of the subject property, and courtesy of our most recent GIS aerial footage, you can see the street layout for Section 1 and Section 2 of the original Massey Oaks and the preservation of that lovely alley of trees. So this piece of property, you can see here from the street view, but honestly, you get a better view from a top-down perspective. So this is the overall site plan, and you can see that there are a number of shared driveway units. These are these properties along the outside and in this bottom portion of the development. And you can see the blown up view here on the right side of the screen where 4 units share off of one consolidated driveway. You can see the overall plan for all of the Massey Oaks development take place here and showing in compliance with the pocket park requirements for all properties to be within a reachable distance for parkland and open spaces. So this meets the comprehensive plan and future land use for this development. Also, the thoroughfare plan is met with Old Massey Ranch being designated as a major thoroughfare. Property is working on being platted as the phases move through, but this piece of property has not been platted yet. And we are in ever working considerations for their utilities and ensuring that traffic and utility services are properly provided for the site. So on the approval criteria, you can see that this generally meets all of the approval criteria for incorporation into a plan development. And staff recommends approval of the requested addendum to add this property into the Massey Oaks plan development. I'll pass it back.
Thank you. Do we have an applicant presentation?
We do. Good evening. Hi, Alan Mueller, 1925 Pearland Parkway, Suite 150, here in Pearland. I've been here several times before, as you know, representing Massey Oaks, and so our team is pretty enthusiastic about being able to potentially add this additional piece of property into the Massey Oaks family as we move east. It's currently under contract from the Ordino family, a longstanding family here in Pearland, and so getting through the zoning process is one of those conditions that we have in order to close. So this evening we have a whole team. Paul Groman, as you know, is here in case there are questions as well. We'll have a presentation here shortly from Andrew Lang, who's with BGE, who's the land planner for Massey Oaks. And we also have representatives from the builder that'll be working in this section, Chesmar Homes. We have David Mullins and Jeff Johnson, and they're here for questions, and also we'll do a short introduction of their company and the products that are going to be built here as well. So right now I'd like to turn it over to Andrew, and if we could flip over here, we'll do our presentation.
Thank you, Alan. Good evening, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Andrew Lang with BGE. As Alan mentioned, I'm one of the land planners on the Massey Oaks project. So what I'd like to do for you this evening is just walk you through a little bit of what's different about what's being proposed with this addendum to the development and how we feel that can be a benefit to the community in the immediate area and Pearland as a whole. And one of the things that we really appreciate about the product that Chesmar is building. So, as we mentioned, some of the goals that we have are to obviously add this piece of property, but we really feel that one of the benefits of the product, some of the products that are being offered with this section of the development, are that they'll really help to target, I think, the missing middle that we've all been speaking about frequently in the city of Pearland. And then we'll get into how that starts to accomplish that, but essentially this really will have a look and feel that's the same as Massey Oaks as a whole. So predominantly the base zoning here that we've proposed is R4. There's a little bit of a townhouse component that is due to the villa product that's being proposed. But for the most part, we're proposing the same base zone that was proposed in the Massey Oaks proper development, which is R4. So this is essentially the design plan that we've come up with. Obviously, due to the Cowart Creek diversion channel, detention kind of needs to be located towards the southern end. There are some Rule 76 drill site contingencies that we're working through right now, so that sort of necessitates the southern end of the land plan. And so what we've tried to do with the rest of the property is to incorporate the products in a way that make the community feel cohesive, and will provide also a mix of products within this portion of the development. And just to add, the building elevations here, we're not proposing any deviations from the Massey Oaks PD, so those will be maintained. And would also just like to point out, there was also, I think, some questions about the emergency services site earlier on in conversations about this tract. The Community Development Department had requested that we hold out a piece of property for an emergency services site, which is why we've designated that at the northwest corner. Some of the amenities that we're proposing, again, very similar to Massey Oaks. Masonry fencing along Old Massey Ranch Road, and entry monumentation that will have a similar look and feel to the Lou Tract and Massey Oaks. We are proposing a community pocket park near the entry, and then some upgraded fencing as well. So we will have upgraded cedar fencing in portions of the development that's similar to Massey Oaks, and some view fencing towards the southern end, so that some of the residents have the ability to enjoy the green space and the amenitized detention pond on the south side. And then our design plan from a landscape architecture perspective is also to try to incorporate the drill site into that area as much as possible, so that we can help utilize that green space for the benefit of the community, since that will, for now at least, need to be held out. We've also proposed a trail system that's going to encircle not only the detention pond, but the pocket parks as well. And we are proposing a pedestrian bridge across the Cowart Creek diversion channel, so that there's opportunities for connectivity between this component of the Massey Oaks development and the rest of the Massey Oaks development as a whole. We know that that's something that's very important to the city, both planning staff and otherwise. And so it was important to us as well from a design perspective to allow that connectivity to happen. And as you see here, so this is just a exhibit that demonstrates we have a pocket park or amenity location within a quarter mile of every lot that's going to be in the entire Massey Oaks development, including the Lou Tract and including the Ordno Tract. And in addition to that, we're almost going to be providing almost 5 miles of pedestrian trails throughout these 3 components of the development, and over 75 acres of open space throughout the development as well. So a little bit about the town square product. It's a shared driveway product, typically 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath homes, anywhere from 1,600 to 2,000 square feet or so. Each of these 4 packs has a street frontage, linear frontage of about 120 feet. And we are proposing some additional parallel parking. And I know this is one of the points of questions that we've had from staff, but parking within the shared driveway is prohibited and will be prohibited. So just some examples of a few other areas within the Houston MSA that this has been developed. So the Groves currently has a section of this that's under construction, Balmoral as well, And then there are 2 sections that are one on the existing on the ground, and then one that is proposed within the Ellison development out on the Katy Prairie. So one of the reasons that I brought up some of the additional parking in the shared driveway and how that works is because what I really enjoy as a planner about this product is that it reduces curb cuts along the streetscape. So it helps to clean that up a little bit, so you don't have driveway cut after driveway cut like you see in some parts of the region. And so that actually reduces the number of curb cuts that you'd get against a traditional R4 50-foot wide lot by almost 60%. So in the same area that you would get 2.5 50-foot wide lots, you would get one of these 4-packs, and your driveway cuts go down by half or more. And what that allows you to do is that increases your parallel parking spaces that you have available on street. So that just kind of helps clean up that streetscape a little bit and provide the residents within the community a little bit of additional on-street parking. Now, in addition to that, we've also proposed throughout the development several of these bump outs that you can see on that bottom exhibit there. And there will be parallel parking spaces that will be off of the vehicular travel lanes, but available on street for residents to park within. Again, just trying to help reduce some of that vehicular clutter that you might get in some subdivisions, especially with proposing denser products. So we've provided about 50 parallel parking spaces within this development to help accomplish that. And then just a little bit about the public utilities and the way that works out. So typically the way that these have been developed in other sections that we've worked on is that there are public utilities that are available throughout the developments. And then what happens is there's a private sanitary lead and a private manhole, sanitary sewer manhole, and then for private water taps that'll happen. All the public utilities will be accessed from the front of the lots, and there will be easements that will help the city accomplish that for ease of maintenance for them. Then just a little bit about the villas. These are more of a traditional duplex home. They're attached single-family residences, and they'll be sold fee simple like traditional detached single-family residences, anywhere from 1,700 to 2,000 square feet. And I'm sure our presenters from Chesmar can speak a little bit in more detail about those as well. And then again, the traditional single-family, these will be the same in character essentially to the rest of the Massey Oaks PD. They will be a standard R4 lot, and they'll be designed to match the look and feel of the rest of the Massey Oaks PD. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today, and if there are any questions, we're available. And yes, Jeff, if you want to add to that at all.
My name is Jeff Johnson. I'm the division president for Chesmar Homes. Actually, address 2017 Morning Lake Drive, League City, Texas, but I built in Pearland about 20 years ago, and I really love this city. And I hope I can answer any questions. Dave Mullins is our land developer. He's actually here too. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, Dave Mullins with Chesmar Homes, Vice President of Land Acquisition.
Mr. Mullins, could you give us your corporate address?
Corporate address 17220 Katy Freeway.
Thank you.
I think we'll conclude there, and then if you have specific questions as we go through the next segment, we'll all be ready. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any persons wishing to speak for or against? Going once, going twice, seeing none. I will open it up to staff comment, commissioner comment. Does anyone have any comments or feedback at this point?
As far as the roads and stuff are concerned, are these roads maintained by the developer, or are they maintained by the city?
So the streets in front of the homes are all public streets, just like a regular subdivision. On these 4-pack units, those would be, shared driveways that would be the responsibility of the owners, and maybe Jeff can address how you maybe handled that in your other communities. So.
Yes. So the picture that was in the presentation is actually from Balmoral, where we had a flat work poured driveway. In Earles, and we're actually using the courtyard is done with pavers. Either way we do it, there's actually a rectangular shaped shared easement in the middle on the plat, and so maintenance or any repairs is much like people's good neighbor fence is done, and it's a responsibility of the residents in that miniature cul-de-sac courtyard for any repairs of that driveway.
Okay, thank you.
What's the distance of the driveway? I'm sorry.
From,
The shared driveway, how deep are the shared driveways?
Well, it's a standard depth lot, so it's about 120 feet, from street all the way to the back. So the driveway is, roughly half, so about 60 feet would be the depth of the driveway.
And what is going to be the price point on the homes?
Currently, these homes, our target price point is from low 300s, 310 up to $400,000. The $400,000 homes are our 3 stories. So there's 7 plans altogether. 5 of them are 2 stories, and then 2 of them are 3 stories. Oh, that's a good point too. I want to mention the villas are actually a product that we build. The closest place here would be Meridiana in Siena. And those are actually $275 up to $350. So a little bit lower price point on the villas than on the courtyard town square product.
Any other comments?
So just from the legal perspective, I understand staff's made the recommendation, and I had a chance to briefly speak with Mr. Mueller and Mr. Lang earlier, just before the meeting, confirming that planning staff has said they know there are still some issues that need to be worked out in the proposed PD language. It's not what you see in front of you, what was in the staff report, most likely will not be what is adopted by the second reading of City Council. We are still working on some of the details, many of them dealing with the shared driveway and how that works with the city's current ordinances in regards to maintenance of that driveway, the responsibility, making sure, it's easy for neighbors to share a $2,000, it's easier, not easy, it's easier for neighbors to share a $2,000 fence expense, being good neighbors, than it is to share a $10,000 to $12,000 concrete expense for a driveway. Those are the types of issues that we're thinking about the enforcement. While it's a private easement for the owners who share the pack, the 4-pack, is that what we're calling it, 4-pack?
I don't know who coined that term, but it seems to be explanatory, yes.
The quad there, at the end of the day, if a vehicle has to be towed, it may be the city who's towing that. And we don't want to be in the business of towing. Well, we understand that we may become in the business, and we have been called to ask for vehicles to be towed before, but this is the type of thing that, one person blocking a driveway on a shared driveway could cause an issue. And they've identified and addressed that by providing the public parallel parking. But that doesn't mean that we may never get a call and may never have to respond to that. And we're trying to think through those types of issues. Or if the people in those quad packs don't make repairs to the driveway the way that might be needed 15, 20 years from now, can an ambulance still go down it? Is it an appropriate distance to drive an ambulance or park at the curb, or a fire truck, emergency apparatus? So we are still working through some of these types of issues, but I think that everybody has the expectation that we will continue working, and we should have a final draft by the second reading in front of City Council.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, not to say details aren't important, because they are, but I think, we feel like these are issues that Chesmar has worked through in their other communities, and we have every expectation that we'll find a solution that works here. Again, the reason we brought this product is, again, we're excited to have this product diversity and some alternatives with both of these types of units that that we're bringing. So I think all the reaction that we've gotten so far is very positive, and there are just these details with regard to the utilities and the driveway that we'll continue to discuss. But again, if at this level, if you like what you're seeing, we would appreciate your favorable vote so we could keep moving down this process.
So we'll go ahead and, you have a comment?
I was just going to say, I really like the idea of incorporating more affordable housing into a single family type of community. I think that that's what we're looking for more of in this community. And I know, and I have faith in the staff, that you will work through all the issues that could cause any problems in the future. But I really like that idea. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to just give a couple of comments, I say all the time, I'm looking for diversity housing. So I do like the product. I did have a question. I know that you said that price point is going to be about $310,000 to $400,000, and then it was compared to the price point, I think, in the Sienna Plantation location. What is the difference for those price points? Is it because of the amenities that are being offered, or the structure and the masonry fencing that contributes to that price difference?
Thank you for the question. So the biggest difference there is just the lot price. There's a big variance in difference in the per front foot price in different communities we build. The product itself, though, we're going to build. Our intention would be to build it the same, with the same masonry requirements, and every one of them has got a covered porch and a covered back porch, front porch, great second story balcony views. So the intention isn't to build them differently than we build them in current master plan communities.
Thank you. Any more comments before we vote? Okay, all of those in favor signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to item number 6, which is this is going to be a little different than the past items. This is a CUP, a conditional use permit. In a conditional use permit, we as the board here, commission, we do not make final decisions. We are simply here to discuss, and the decisions will be made at the council level. So this is item number 6 again, commission input and discussion, conditional use permit application CUP 22-20. And this is a request by Tessie Gurley, 2 Barnett's LTD applicant and owner, for approval of a conditional use permit, or a CUP, for heavy machinery sales, storage, rental, and repair, combined tool and machinery rental, indoor storage only, the use thereof on approximately 3.48 acres of land within the general commercial district, the general location being 1715 Main Street in Pearland, Texas. We do not need a motion for approval in a second, so this is open for discussion, so we move straight into staff report.
Thank you, Chair. Let me introduce once again Patrick to provide the staff report. Patrick, take it away.
Thank you, Martin. As mentioned, the proposed CUP is for the heavy machinery sales, storage, rental, and repair, combined tool and machinery rental, indoor storage only. And I want to preface that it's specifically for heavy machinery repair, according to the applicant, and specifically, as in their letter, for crane repair services is what the proposed business for it is for, and that this is the use that it fits into. And to date, staff has not received any written comments or phone calls in favor or against the proposed request. Just kind of looking at the zoning of the property, as mentioned, the property is general commercial, and it kind of has a mixture of general commercial and light industrial, which is the pink, with to the south and a portion to the north, and then to the east, the general commercial with the light industrial to the west and the north. And looking at the future land use of the property, it's business commercial, with the properties to the north and the south also being business commercial. We have some industrial future land use to the west, and then some low density residential to the east at the rear of the property. And kind of just looking at a history of the property, it was originally first developed in 1955, and then further developed in the 1970s with additional structures. It was actually annexed into the city in 1960. The property is currently unplatted, and just some of the previous uses that have been on this site have been a car dealership, a retail pottery business, and a home decor store. And here's just an aerial map of the property as well as some of the surrounding uses. We see some undeveloped, or not some, mostly undeveloped land to the north, the south, and the east, with a warehouse/outdoor storage use to the north as well, and then a fast food restaurant across Main Street to the west. And this is just a view of the subject property from Main Street. You get a view of the building at the front, and then some additional, there's additional structure at the back of the property. And so looking at the review criteria, the proposed CUP is consistent with the comprehensive plan and the future land use plan. Main Street is designated as a major thoroughfare of sufficient width. The proposed use should also conform to the general commercial zoning district. And it should be noted that the proposed change of use on the property shall also conform to the landscaping and screening of the UDC, which is triggered by what the UDC has as planning triggers. And one of those, there's different things for triggers, and one of them is a change of use on the property. And then also the subject property has access to city utilities along Main Street. So looking at the approval criteria for a conditional use permit, staff found that the proposed request meets all of the approval criteria, and specifically if you look at 6, any additional landscaping or screening that may be needed will in effect permit this to be like conforming. It is conforming because of those additional things that may be added at the time of improvements. And then so the proposed use meets the established criteria for approval of a conditional use permit. The proposed use also is consistent, as mentioned, with the comprehensive plan and the future land use plan and the intent of the general commercial district. And therefore staff recommends approval of the request. That concludes staff's report.
Thank you for that. With that in the record, the applicant presentation follows, if the applicant cares to make a presentation. Thank you for being here.
I'm Tessie Gurley, address 5402 Ryan Acres Drive, Pearland, Texas, 77584. I'm just owner of the property, just here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Thanks again for being here. Ryan Acres is a lovely neighborhood, by the way.
It is.
All right. That takes us then to persons wishing to speak for or against. Is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against? Seeing no movement or hearing no one, we'll move over to staff, commission, applicant discussion. Anyone?
I do have a question. And when you talk about heavy machinery, what are you talking about exactly? I've heard cranes, I've heard heavy machinery. What does that look like? Can you just describe that for me, please?
Sure. Most of this is just their offices and hub to work out of. They travel from Pearland to wherever the cranes are. So it's sort of a just a hub that they would store supplies or whatever they would need. There's actually no cells there. It's more their offices. And then they go daily from there to wherever they need to work on the heavy equipment.
Thank you.
Is there a plan to have additional buildings on the site?
Not anytime soon.
Are they going to come in and do any type of, right now I'm assuming that there's a lot of grass and just lawn back there in the back of that? Are they going to come in and they're going to make a lay down yard or what?
Well, it is mowed from probably, I would say 300 feet back or more. It's mowed with a lawnmower. Beyond that is a bush hog, and so we keep that bush hogged back behind that point.
Okay, so there is no plans to come in there and gravel that area for equipment to be stored and such as that then?
No.
Mr. Lee? Hi, Mr. Lee. I'm Lawrence from the legal department. Something you said seemed different from what I thought I heard in, I don't remember if it was a pre-development meeting or a staff meeting, and I just wasn't sure if I misunderstood it. So I wanted to ask, because one of the questions was what's stored on site or fixed on site. Behind the primary structure there, isn't there kind of an open air place where you could store equipment? Are they doing repairs on site in that area? Martin's trying to highlight it with his mouse there.
Sure. There is first of all, the house that was the house, it's 3,000 square feet. And then I guess I learned tonight, maybe in the 60s, there was a warehouse kind of, I think it was a daycare. And so she built the metal building of which so there's 1,000 square feet in that. The offices proper are 3,000 square feet. So then there's a covered, it's concreted, but it's covered, not real large. And I guess they could do whatever repairs, minimal, that would take place on the property.
Right. So one of the things that this commission can make a recommendation to City Council for is to make sure that there's not storage of cranes going all the way back to the back of the property. No outside storage. Or if they were concerned about repairs being on site, making sure that they're only done inside the warehouse or a covered area or something like that. And I thought that those were two of the questions that can get to that type of thing. So I was wondering, do you know for sure if that's going to happen? If they wanted to attach conditions to address those things, do you have any concerns about those conditions? I see other people standing up, so if you want to invite them up to help address these issues, just so that we're all clear on what the future development could look like, that could help with the recommendation.
Sure.
Hi, my name's Leslie. I work with my dad. It's my dad's business, a family business. So anything that would be stored is smaller cranes that we would put on, pull with us to a job site to help assist. But this is something small that, stays at a minimal height. Nothing that, we would take over that whole plot of land. We wouldn't be using any of that back there.
So this is really a mobile, a mobile mechanic.
Correct.
And the cranes that you're talking about keeping in there are truck-mounted cranes?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. All right.
Leslie, could I get you to do me a favor, please? We didn't get your last name, and if you have a corporate address, that's fine. If not, we need a business or residential address for you.
Okay. It's Leslie Cross, and our address is 6001 Allison Road.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So if somebody wanted to make a recommendation to prohibit outdoor storage so that it doesn't become a crane graveyard, do you have any concerns about that?
No. So I know y'all were asking about the repairs. It would be something that would be removed from a crane. a smaller piece that can get loaded onto a truck, taken there, repaired real quick, and then taken back to the actual job site to place back on a crane.
So y'all don't own any cranes. All y'all are, I want to make that clear, y'all are strictly a mechanic service, correct?
Hi, my name is Gerardo Chavira. I'm the owner of Crane Repair. I do own 3 cranes. It's 15-ton cranes that I use for my purpose. I do take the machine sometimes to a job site to work on bigger machines. So I'll, bring all that. We run our service trucks. We got 4 service trucks that we go out on the field and do our performance out there, construction sites and all that. So that's just really going to be a base for us, a home to come to. We do go out and do services, oil changes, and that matter, but nothing gets stored. Everything gets bought to do the job. So that place there is going to be for offices and our truck, to store our trucks and to keep, like I said, three pieces of equipment that I own.
Okay.
For me,
Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, please.
So just so I'm clear, so there will be cranes that are stored on the property. They're your cranes.
Yes.
But there will be can you describe for me what those look like?
Yeah, they're 15-ton machines. They're what they call RTs, rough terrain cranes. They're on wheels, no tracks. Like I said, I just use them for my personal use. But they don't get moved around a lot. Like I said, just for my unloading and loading my equipment that sometimes, like I said, sometimes I bring an engine in or something that stores cylinder. But it's just, like I said, three cranes, nothing big, crawler cranes or anything.
So I did reach out to a couple of local businesses in the area just to get their pulse. I just wanted to understand where they're at with this. Both of them said they welcomed it. So I have zero issues with this. We're always told to vote the dirt, right? I mean, the stories you're telling us today could change tomorrow, could change a year from now. But even if you stored things towards the back, I wouldn't have a problem with it as long as it was screened, from the front. And it didn't create a huge eyesore anywhere. But this what you're describing to me meets the feel and the character of the roads of Main Street from you going north. Now going south, there's more of a commercial feel. So I think this is a good delicate balance in between the two. So I'm for it. Anyone else have any comments? All right. All those in favor? We do have, no, we don't do that. So we're supposed to go down and say how we'd vote if we were voting. So please, Commissioner McCatherine, if you'll start.
It's okay. I would recommend.
I would recommend with the condition that it doesn't become a storage yard or a graveyard for old cranes and stuff back there in the back.
I would recommend, and I would put a condition on there concerning, I guess, the number of cranes or how big those are going to be. Once it reaches or exceeds a certain amount, it needs to be stored. So to the point of some of the commissioners, it wouldn't be an eyesore or something that you see when you're passing down. So I'm not sure what that language looks like. I would leave that to council, but it is something that I would recommend approval for this CUP. Thank you.
Commissioner Earles, I would recommend approval, but I would echo what Commissioner Boswell said. I know the 15-ton crane looks like it's a nice size truck, and to have 3 of those on site, I think over time, possibly having 4, increasing your business, which I hope happens, could possibly have quite a few cranes. with good luck on that site. And that may be an issue or an eyesore for neighbors. So I will put some kind of condition on it as well.
Commissioner Hendricks, I'm for the CUP, as long as it doesn't become an eyesore, because they did invest a ton of money into beautifying this corridor. So it would be with the condition that that this equipment wasn't visible from the road.
There you go.
So
I already said I was for it. Right.
Yes, sir. I was just going to say, it seemed kind of like a consensus with some of those conditions in regards to trying to figure out how to limit it. And I would just say that Pryor's P&Z Commission had I think it was a truck transfer station, if I'm calling it the correct thing, and they put a number on it. You know, I think they either had 4 or 8, I don't remember which it was, for storing large trucks and trailers off of one of the state highways that went through the city. And what you're suggesting, I think, sounds in line with that. And based on that, I think staff will be able to recommend a cap and then let council decide what the appropriate cap would be for storage of cranes and preventing it from being a crane part graveyard.
Well, I would have, instead of a number, I guess I would have said, and maybe it is with a number, after X amount, after 5. And I hate to pull a number out, because what if they're screened behind the buildings and nobody sees them? It doesn't matter to me. But at a certain point, maybe an accessory building to park them in, maybe a metal building that you know, with the big roll-up doors that you just, you pull them in, and for security of the equipment itself. Those kind of things tend to take care of each other. But that's what I would have recommended had we been voting or making a motion or amendment. I would have presented that. So an alternative.
Yeah.
Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for bringing your business to Pearland.
Thank you.
We'll do our part to keep Main Street beautiful.
Ms. Cross, we did not get a speaker registration form, and I know that you identified yourself, but if you step right outside, actually both of you, and I think it's your father, is that correct? So if we could get one for each of you, we'd appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, that takes us to item number 7, and this again is a CUP, which is for the discussion purposes only. This is Commission Input and Discussion Conditional Use Permit Application CUP 22-22. Public hearing, a request by, I hope I say this correctly, Haley Frentz, Riot Salon, LLC, applicant on behalf of Danny Newberry, representing VIG Pearland LLC owner, for approval of a conditional use permit, or CUP, for massage establishment use on approximately 1.771 acres of land located within the General Commercial GC District, the general location being 1331 Broadway, Suite K, Pearland, Texas. We do not call for a motion in a second, so we'll move straight into staff report.
Thank you, Chair. Let me introduce Sameen once again to present the staff report. Sameen, take it away.
Thank you, Martin. So the next case is a CUP application for a massage establishment at a property located at 1331 Broadway, Suite K, in General Commercial Zone District. The applicant is adding the massage establishment to her existing beauty salon. So far, staff has received 2 written comments against the proposed CUP.
And just so we can correct the screen there, the proposed use is the massage establishment. It's a copy-paste error.
Looking at the zoning and aerial map, you can see the property is located in general commercial and is surrounded by mostly commercial zone district. And to the north, it's residential. Looking at the future land use map, the property is designated as a retail service and office, which supports the proposed CUP. The property was developed in 1977 as a warehouse originally, and now it is a commercial building with different tenants. The property recently went through exterior facade upgrades, and currently a beauty salon, and the second floor is being proposed for the massage use. And as you can see, this is a proposed site plan for the existing beauty salon and the future massage establishment. And these are the pictures from the east, west, and south of the building, showing the exterior renovation and the commercial building. Here, you're looking at the aerial map. The property is next to a restaurant, office building to the south, and also a commercial building to the west. And to the north is adjacent to a residential zone district. Here is the Google map that shows the number of massage establishment within 1 mile of the proposed of the subject site, and also 2 miles of the subject site. There's 1 massage establishment within 1 mile and 6 massage places within 2 miles of the subject site. The proposed use is in conformance with the comprehensive plan. Broadway is a major thoroughfare and has sufficient width. The proposed use shall conform to GC districts. The subject property has access to water, sewer, and water line. The proposed CUP is conformance with the policy of the future land use map and is consistent with the purpose and intent of applicable zoning district. This is an existing building, and there's no negative impact on the adjacent properties. So the proposed use meets the established criteria for approval of a CUP. That's why the staff recommends approval of the request. The proposed use is consistent with the comprehensive plan, including future land use plan and thoroughfare plan and intent of the GC district. And that completes my staff report.
Thank you for that. Moving in the script, we have the applicant presentation next. And as a reminder, please state your name and address for the record, and thank you for being here.
Hello, my name is Haley Friends. My commercial address is 1331 Broadway Street, Pearland, Texas. I'm just here to advocate, of course, and then answer any questions. I know there were some concerns potentially, so.
Thank you for that. And that concludes your applicant presentation, though, correct? Okay. We'll move on then. Is there any persons here wishing to speak for or against? Any persons wishing to speak for or against? Seeing none or hearing none, I do have, and I believe I'm supposed to say this, I do have 2 email responses that were against, but for the record, I needed to state that. That moves us on then to staff, commission, applicant discussion. Commissioners?
I have a couple of questions. I know that this is an existing beauty salon. How long has it been in existence?
So this location is our second location, and it's been in existence for roughly 10 months.
Okay. And do you have any experiences with massage industry?
Yes. So I've owned a salon and day spa for 7.5 years. This is my 4th location. And so we've had a day spa that's included everything, including massage at previous locations, on and off for 5 of those years. So we currently operate a day spa at my Webster location, and it's very successful. And we added on, I actually did the same style of concept. I had an original space and then added onto my space, kind of like what I'm doing here in the Pearland location, to accommodate the spa that offers everything as well.
And for your massages, do you offer full body? What is the extent or types of massages that would be offered?
Awesome question. So yes, we're full body. We do body scrubs, body wraps, treatments. We actually have showers on site in the facility as well that are completely enclosed, lockable doors, all of the things. We also have laundry on site. We are very different, I would say, in the aspect of your traditional massage / day spa environment. We cater towards autoimmune compromised and allergen based clientele. We do that at both of our establishments. So everything we're using is for people who have a lot more sensitive skin, hair, all the things, and are immunocompromised.
And for the hours for the massage and the salon, would they be one and the same once you bring those services in if you're approved for this CUP?
So the way that we have it currently at our Webster location, we would probably mirror that. So our current salon hours are 8:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. We have split shift for our staff. What we're probably going to do, our spa is open in our Webster location until 7 p.m. We're probably going to mirror that, honestly, just as demand requires, but we tend to find that we don't really get that many massage requests after 8, 9 o'clock at night anyways, so we try to keep it a little bit more during daylight hours.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
It sounds good to me. I mean, there's been a lot of concern with the massage business, as you well know, and we've got a really good group of people here in Pearland that are in the massage business that are at the forefront of making sure that everything stays on the up and up. And I in no way indicating that's not the case. I'm just making that clear that, and I imagine that you have seen the requirements and that we've put on the massage businesses in order to be in, and you're willing to comply to every one of those.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Just for clarity, is this an upstairs and downstairs facility?
So the salon is on the first floor, and then I've taken over on the second floor, the right half of the upstairs, yes. So the massage and spa area will be on the second floor.
You have an elevator as well?
No, but the current landlord has renovated the staircase to be, because I was not happy with how it looked and how it was functional before, so they're currently getting it nice, and they put new railings in and everything. But yeah, it's a very short upstairs. It's not a, I don't know what the best way to describe it is, but we felt comfortable with offering those services on the second floor due to the style of massage that we're doing. And we generally end up catering to sports massage and stuff like that as well. So we do a lot of stretch massage and then cupping and all of that kind of stuff. So second floor didn't seem to be a problem, and we kind of like went over it with our clientele at both locations.
And I don't know if TDLR is something that you report to or make sure that they're okay as far as ADA.
We didn't see any discrepancies in a second floor. We can keep looking into that, but every time I've researched that through TDLR over the 7.5 years, I've never had an issue with a second floor facility.
As last time, we're not going to vote as a unit. We're just stating if we were voting, how we would vote. So you want to start off?
Commissioner Earles, I'd be a yes.
Commissioner Hendricks, a yes.
Commissioner McCatherine, I support.
Commissioner Eisenberg, I support.
Commissioner Boswell, I'd be yes.
Commissioner Fortis, I'd be a yes as well. As some of the other commissioners stated, there's some reservation, but I think you've put on a very good presentation, and you seem as legitimate as we've ever seen here. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That brings us to item number 8 under new business, and that is consideration and possible action, proposed amendments to the Unified Development Code pertaining to outdoor uses. subdivision fence materials in corridor overlay districts, and parking for furniture stores. This is consideration possible action, so we'll need a motion for approval and a second. Please.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, staff report. Thank you again.
All right. Thank you, Chair. So both Florence and myself will kind of tag team in between these two. So as stated, this first batch is for outside and outdoor storage or outside outdoor activities and uses. Working on the definitions, use table, and use regulations. We'll follow that up with subdivision fence materials within the corridor overlay district. And then we will end the night discussing furniture and appliance store use, the classification, and the parking requirements. And then if there are any additions, changes, recommendations, we'll of course take those in to consideration and make sure that they are presented appropriately to City Council for consideration. You'll remember that we had an initial discussion about these, I believe in July was when we first discussed some of these uses and some of these text amendments. So with that, I will pass it over to Florence to talk about the outside and outdoor activities.
Thank you, Martin. So I'm going to present the first part, which is for the outdoor uses and activities. At our last discussion, staff did raise a number of issues with the current regulations and language in the UDC. The first one was with the definitions, that the definitions in Chapter 5 of the UDC did not match up with the use regulations in Chapter 2 of the UDC. And so staff is proposing some amendments to those definitions to make it consistent with the proposed use regulations in Chapter 2 of the UDC. And then staff would also be looking at the land use matrix in Chapter 2, as well as the outdoor uses and activities table in Chapter 2. There are some inconsistencies between the two tables, and so we are making proposed amendments to make sure that both tables are speaking the same language. And then finally, the third one has to do with a proposed by right option for allowing outdoor storage in the general business and general commercial district. Currently, outdoor storage requires a CUP in almost all districts except for the industrial districts. And so we are looking at an option which will allow retail businesses to have these outdoor storage by right if they met certain conditions. So I'm going to start with the definitions. There are minor changes to the definition to make it consistent with the use regulations. The first one is for outdoor or outside display. In Chapter 5, it makes it synonymous to outside or outdoor sales, which have different use regulations. And so we are proposing that be taken out and a new definition be included specifically for outdoor sales. And then also it refers to outdoor display as a primary use. We are proposing that be changed to an accessory use. And also the language about the display area being greater than 30% of the gross floor area be removed. And the definition should maintain that it should be confined to the pedestrian area immediately adjacent to the front of the principal building. And then for outdoor storage, there's a very minimum change, and that's to include the word principal building. And this is just to emphasize the fact that there should be a principal building on the site and before you can have an outdoor storage area on site. And then the last one is the introduction of a separate definition or a new definition for outdoor sales. And specifically, this will be limited to the sale of merchandise, goods, or materials in conjunction with temporary or seasonal events associated with the principal use of the building or use of the site. And so this is how we already regulate that use. And so staff believes that this definition will just make it more distinct from outdoor display and also consistent with the regulation of that use. Then the second set of amendments under the outdoor uses and activities is to resolve inconsistencies between our land use matrix, which is shown on top, and then our outdoor uses and activities table, which is at the bottom. And basically what staff did was to make sure that both tables were showing the same uses being permitted either by conditional use permit or by right within the same zoning districts. And then the third amendment has to do with proposing a by right option for outdoor storage. And this is to take out some of the administrative work that goes into the CUP and also make it easier for businesses that need some outdoor storage to be able to obtain these through staff approval without having to wait for a long time to go through the conditional use permit process. And so staff is proposing certain regulations which would allow staff to approve these administratively. Anything outside of these regulations will still require the conditional use permit. So I'm just going to go through the regulations. One has to do with the height of stored materials. Currently, we do have screening requirements, and this one has to do with visibility of stored materials along public rights of ways. And so here we are proposing that when materials are stored between the building and the public right of way, those material heights do not exceed whatever screening height that they have. It just means that we don't want to see the materials from the public right of way. And then the second one has to do with the amount of area that can be allocated to outside storage. Just looking at other municipalities around us, we arrived at a minimum square footage, and what we found was 1,000 square feet. So whenever storage happens within a on-site outdoor storage happens, and it's going to be administratively approved, we are recommending that it should not exceed 1,000 square feet or 5% of the gross floor area, whichever is greater. So they do have some flexibility there. Anything outside of this would require a conditional use permit. And then the other condition is that outdoor storage shall not be permitted in a multi-tenant commercial development. And this is because a lot of these developments have shared parking, and we just want to make sure that no commercial development is taking up space on site, either within the setback areas or the rear or on the parking lot, taking space away from other shared uses of the commercial development. And then the fourth condition talks about outside storage not being between the front setback area and the front of the building. Outside display is allowed within that area, and so we are hoping that with this condition, outside storage will be confined to the side and the rear of commercial developments. And staff is recommending approval of that, and that concludes the section on outdoor uses and activities. Thank you.
was going to say, I'll take a pause here to kind of reflect and ask if y'all want to have discussions over each section, which I'm getting a head nod. So let's talk about outdoor storage or outdoor uses. I keep going outdoor storage. Apologize.
Commissioners? What?
I say that we just discuss outdoor storage and close it out and then move on to the next.
You got something to add? On that slide right there, outdoor storage shall not be permitted in multi-tenant commercial development. Number 3 there. And maybe I'm not getting outdoor storage exactly, but I'm thinking of the red box, those things outside of the CVS and Walgreens and grocery stores. Is that considered outdoor storage?
No. So what we're talking about here is similar to the case that we saw with Home Depot. So where they have outdoor storage of materials or outdoor storage of things that they sell. Redbox or other ATMs or I think just around the corner here, we've got a Bitcoin sales box, just because I lack the proper terminology to call it whatever it's appropriately called. But all of those would just be things that are similar to ATMs.
Okay, but then I think of grocery stores that have the propane sales, those kind of things. Is that part of? And the reason I'm asking for those type things in particular because they are multi-tenant. So with that, if that is considered, is number 3 part of the similar to number 2, where at the bottom of number 2 where it says, or the end of number 2, any outdoor storage exceeding this will require the approval of a conditional use permit. So I guess what I'm saying is, if somehow we make these regulations like number 3, that one says shall not be permitted in a multi-tenant commercial development. If there is someone doing it, can they get a CUP, or is it just like no more?
So I would say that the outdoor storage, particularly with the propane tanks, those are going to be outdoor display areas because that is a product that they sell and are required to have on the outside of the building. One, from a fire hazard, 2, from an ease of deliverance to the customer. So those would be different than storage of raw material or storage of goods for sale.
Got it. Okay. Then the second part of that is, if someone does want outdoor storage, is it still shall not, or will they just need to get the approval of a conditional use permit?
So let's take the example of the Kroger closest here on Broadway at Berry Rose. That is a multi-tenant site. I don't remember if Kroger has their one separate lot to their own, or if it is one lot for everything out there. But let's imagine that it's all one lot, because that means that it is, all of the tenants in line with Kroger, and then all of the smaller tenants on the other L-shaped side. So that is definitely a multi-tenant commercial development. But in order to keep it fair in between the both the large and the small, or even if it is small and small end commercial users, we're trying to limit it so that way, one, it doesn't become one person then takes everyone's space. So it's just easier to say, if you are in one of those multi-tenant commercial spaces, then, or multi-tenant commercial developments, that no outdoor storage is allowed. You still get outdoor display, you still get temporary outdoor sales. So you have capability to do limited outdoor activities. It's just they have to be tied back to what your business is.
How does that affect like at certain times of the year, the Mother's Day, the flowers, the different things like that they come out there and they set up in that Kroger parking lot?
Right. So just to broaden the scope out, outdoor sales have always been through a temporary use. Through when we consolidated all of the outdoor uses and made it a part of the uses regulation specific to use chapter about a year and a half, 2 years ago, maybe, to try and progressively clean up the UDC. That's when all of these things got moved over there. Outdoor sales has always been a temporary or seasonal event, and it is described within those sections of the code, or that section of the regulation specific to use. This definition takes those words that are described in that section and utilizes a lot of the same language. So sale of merchandise, goods, or materials in conjunction with temporary or seasonal events associated with the principal use of the building. So if you have a store, a general retail store that sells cards, or sells goods that are then advertised for national holidays, so Mother's Day, Father's Day, Christmas, Hanukkah, all of the seasonal events. Coming up soon, we'll have Halloween with October rolling just nearly at our door. So, those are seasonal events, and that is temporary allowed through our outdoor sales.
Another thing, I think y'all are just trying to circumvent somebody going out there, like I've seen it out at the Sam's out on the freeway, where over there on the El Dorado side, they've got all these storage containers and stuff. Y'all are trying to just make sure we don't get any of that started in Pearland.
Part of the reason why we're saying in conjunction with is so that way you don't get Bob's bookstore and then he goes out and tries to sell sushi. That's not related to Bob's bookstore. The whole point is so that way it's the user of that tenant space, or the user of that site, that then sets the use and the allowed uses that are outdoor.
So the next item, reserving the right to come back if I think so.
Of course. So this next section is about subdivision fences. We have had some discussions with various subdivisions that are along corridor overlay district roads that have kind of reached their ultimate lifespan, or have had certain issues with the fence, being if it's a vehicular accident or some elevation change that's then causing the fence to start to lose its integrity. So under current regulations, any subdivision that is adjacent to a corridor overlay district roadway has to install a masonry screening against that roadway in order to maintain style, color, material uniformity for the length of the subdivision. Again, the current regulation discusses masonry as the only option for those fences. Masonry is defined as brick, stone brick veneer, custom treated tilt wall, decorative or textured concrete block, split face block, and stucco. So some of the things that we look at when we are assessing fence materials are aesthetics, durability, the ability for that fence material to provide buffering for sound and visual barriers, that it's maintaining a safe quality, and that it's low in maintenance, because we're not wanting to push maintenance onto the subdivision or the HOA. So our proposed amendment, which takes place within the Corridor Overlay District rules, adds in alternative screening materials may be approved if it meets the spirit and intent of the section. It is demonstrated to be decorative, 100% opaque, durable, and generally maintenance-free. And if the Community Development Director finds the material to be in the public interest, to approve the alternative screening materials. So again, this is just entering in a sentence and a half to be able to allow different materials, but still keep the same integrity of what a masonry fence would provide. So I'll pause here and look for any discussion.
Commissioner? Only, well, one thing for me, I've seen it in the past when we put a title in there, being a job title in there, those titles can change. And maybe it's the Community Development Director or his designee or his or her designee. I only say that just because before the title gets changed, they could officially maybe email whoever, and even if it's the same person gets the change. Does that make any sense? We've had an issue before when Lotta used to have a different title, and then I think she got promoted, and then it got changed up. We had to do amendments.
We've brought amendments for Public Works Director versus engineering, city engineer. So no, I understand where you're going with that.
So the question I would have, Vice Chair Fortes, is are you suggesting that it's a city manager or their designee? This way it can fall to any person in the proper hierarchy over that division? Or are you suggesting that we use something other than Community Development Director?
Any way that we could write it in that we don't need an amendment if the titles change. Today it's community development. Before it was planning and the planning department. So director, executive director, those titles tend to change over time. So that's all my point was. If it's city manager or the designee, then of course that the city manager, I think, is a duty by charter or a position by charter, so that wouldn't change. So that would work. Just a suggestion. Anyone else? All right, reserving the right to come right back.
All right, and our last section in this batch of UDC amendments deals with furniture and appliance stores. Goals of this item are to merge the two definitions together. We have both furniture and appliance store, open storage and retail sale, and then retail or rental only, indoor only. And then this would add in updates to the land use matrix and provide for revised parking requirements as we shift to move these two together. So under existing UDC regulations, you can see that one is at 1 space per 500, and then the other is at 1 space per 200 square feet. The proposal would remove the open storage, retail sales, and then we would update the land use matrix and the parking requirements. So this is what the proposed amendment looks like. It removes the bottom row entirely, taking the open storage use out, and then consolidates the two. We removed furniture and appliance sales out of the spectrum districts, and then did not include the use within the M2 district, and then maintained it as a conditional use within the M1 district. On the parking, again, we removed the open storage category and added in that if the store is over 25,000 square feet, that it goes to the 1 space per 300. This is mirroring what other retail uses allow. And then if there is any open storage or outside storage that is proposed, it would, of course, fall back to the previous discussion where we cover outdoor storage more thoroughly. Oh, and last, it removes the definition that's not necessary anymore. So with all of that, staff is recommending the motion to approve these 3 amendments, sets of amendments.
I think these mirror what we discussed before, and I'm good with it.
I concur. I think it goes with what we discussed earlier, and I'm fine.
I think we've had a lot of discussions concerning these, lengthy. I think you've captured what we've said or our vision for these. I do agree with what Commissioner Fortes said concerning that title. When talking about that designation, something that is more broad, or if that were to change, I could see how that would be beneficial. But other than that, I don't have any changes to propose. Thank you.
I just wanted to say there is language earlier on in the UDC, and it says, well, it actually says planning. So the director of planning or equivalent as assigned by the city manager. And I would recommend that we use something similar to that. So the director of community development or equivalent as assigned by the city manager for that one section that we were talking about.
I'll make a motion to include that same language for consistency.
Second.
If there's no further discussion, let's vote on that motion. All right, all those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. That measure passes 6-0. And thank you for that, for doing that research there. And then now, if there's nothing further, we'll vote on the consideration of possible action, item number 8 itself, with the amended motion. All right, all those in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Measure passes 6-0. We were way too agreeable tonight. And that brings us to item number, that concludes new business. We are in discussion items. I promise I won't say anything. Commissioner's activity report? No. Next P&Z meeting is October 3rd. Is there anyone knowing that they cannot attend at this time? Commissioner Eisenberg cannot attend? All right. I guess we'll see all others here.
I was going to say, the only thing I'll add to that is Shelby will be sending out, or has already sent out, will be sending out notices for our next CPAC meeting.
I thought you were going somewhere else with that. The bus tour coming up with PEDC, if we can talk about that for a little bit. And then also if I can get your final confirmation for attendance, if y'all don't mind.
Final confirmation of attendance for the bus tour? Okay. And so if somebody could please describe that bus tour and the purpose thereof, that'd be wonderful.
Sure thing. So we try to annually team up with economic development to provide a tour around the city and highlight some new accomplishments and growth within our city. And this is just an opportunity to make that tour and let it be known.
All right. Any questions?
What day is it again?
September 30th?
Yes, September 30th, and it's going to be from, I think, 8 to 3 p.m. Okay. No worries.
I'll go ahead and make that trip.
Okay, perfect. And I'll send out more information about that as well as the upcoming CPAC meetings. Yes, we do have the dates for CPAC. That's going to be October 25th. Let me make sure. It's a Tuesday. Really quick. Yes, October 25th and November 8th.
And is there still time to take that map and make comments on it, or I'll do it, and if they care to look at it, that's fine. If not,
yeah, no, it has not been adopted yet, so there is still time and opportunity to have and make comment.
CPAC is 6 to 8 at the moment.
And not to book everyone's schedule right now. It was more to let y'all know that we'll have future communications about those two events.
all right. If there's nothing further, then it is now 9 p.m. straight up. Thank you all for being here. A meeting adjourned, I guess I should have said.